In the shadow-drenched town of Whispering Pines, nestled between fog-laden mountains and a ceaselessly churning sea, there stood an unassuming cottage on the outskirts, shrouded in ivy and local superstition. It was whispered that the house held a curse so potent that none who slept there saw the dawn. Charlotte, a true crime writer with a penchant for the macabre, was drawn to this lore like a moth to flame. Her arrival was met with wary eyes and hushed tones from the townsfolk, who had long learned to respect the whispered warnings of their ancestors. Ignoring their pleas, Charlotte settled into the cottage during a tempestuous night, her only companions the howling wind and the tapping of the skeletal branches against the window panes. As midnight approached, she began to write, her fingers dancing feverishly over the keys, documenting every shadow, every creak of the old wooden floorboards. But as the clock struck 12, her candle flickered out, plunging the room into darkness. A chill swept through the cottage, and the air filled with the faint, undeniable sound of someone whispering her name. Charlotte! Startled, she lit another candle, only to see her breath fogging in the suddenly ice-cold air. The whispers grew louder, a cacophony of voices begging, warning, pleading, "Leave, leave, leave!" Panicked, she stood to flee but stopped as the house began to shift subtly, the walls groaning under the weight of unseen forces. Photographs and books flew from their shelves as if tossed by invisible hands. The whispers turned to screams, filling her ears with terror. In her heart, Charlotte knew she could not leave, not yet. She needed answers. She found herself drawn to the basement, the voices guiding her downward. The air grew denser, colder as she descended. There, in the dim light, stood an old, ornate mirror, its surface swirling with a ghostly fog. Charlotte peered into the glass, and her blood ran cold. Reflected back at her were scenes of horror, shadowy figures, twisted and writhing in agony, trapped within the glass. She realized then that the cottage was not haunted by one spirit, but many. Souls captured and imprisoned by the mirror by some forgotten dark ritual. The realization was too much. As she turned to escape, a powerful force pulled her back. Her screams were lost in the storm as her fingers grazed the cold surface of the mirror, and she was absorbed into its depths. The next morning, the sun rose on Whispering Pines, as calm and serene as if the night's horrors had never occurred. The cottage stood silent, waiting. The locals, passing by and noticing the stillness, nodded knowingly. Another soul lost to the cursed house. Charlotte's unfinished manuscript lay on the table, her last entry a chilling forewarning of her fate. The cottage remained, whispered about and feared, its windows forever watching, waiting for the next unwary soul to ignore the whispers of Whispering Pines.